What's up, guys? Since today is Friday, I just wanted to do something a little different, and as opposed to me just picking up a topic and discussing it, I wanted to do that thing that I would do many, many months ago, in which I would just get on Google and see what kind of questions turn up. And then I saw something about what if something something, and then I thought, you know what? I don't think I've ever done one of those before, so the website that I stumbled upon was icebreakerideas.com, and it has like 127 suggestions to ask friends about um, like hypothetical stuff. So I said this could be fun. So I'm just going to scroll through and see the more complex ones that I think would force me to think, and then express my opinion in that manner. And then, if you guys wonder, yes, yesterday I ended up feeling worse, so that's why I didn't stream. And honestly, I also ran out of time because I had a late shift. But in general, I just could not say a sentence without having to like clear my throat or something. It felt awful, but now I'm feeling a whole lot better. It just, yeah, I just needed the rest, I guess. But anyways, whatever it was, it's pretty much, I'm mostly over it. Now the only thing I'm whining about is the fact that my perception of taste is still gone, but it'll come back, I'm sure. Anyways, let's get this started. I know I did not read these ahead, but I did see a few interesting ones. So, um, I just hope to not really dwell on them too long. The first one says, what if all the oceans dried up? You know what? I have thought about it, and to me, the most fascinating thing about this scenario is that we would get to see the treasures that the ocean hides. And I guess by treasures, I mean stuff like sunken ships. Sunken ships have history behind them. And then when I think about it, the ocean itself, it's a whole, it's like its own little planet. And what I mean by that is you have its own mountain ranges. Then you have the trenches. Then you have areas that are just plain and flat. And I guess the only bummer aspect of it is when you drain the ocean, of course, all these fish are going to be just splashing out of the water. That would be a horrible sight, and don't even get me started on what the smell is going to be like. But it would be cool to be able to see what kind of creatures are in the ocean. But if this happens suddenly, we're going to see all of them piled up to where we won't be able to recognize much. So that would be kind of frustrating. But but if we could somehow have, I don't want to say layers because it doesn't work this way, but if somehow we could get rid of all the fish so that we don't have this whole pile of death, in the middle of what used to be the ocean, then that would be interesting to study and explore. Because I know that there's a lot of stuff that's been lost in the ocean, so it would be nice to recover all that, although most of it is going to be ruined by the ocean weather and whatnot. But it would be pretty exciting. I can see that as a cool thing to go through. So definitely, I think that is a good, it's not a good scenario because we do need the ocean, but at least it would be interesting to find out. The next thing is, what if computers took over the world? Well, when I think about it, it is kind of happening already. So I'm not entirely sure um, what to say on that one, but I know what it means. It probably means something like we become so dependent upon them that in order to fix things, we consult them as opposed to us having control of situations like we're used to. And honestly, that would be completely devastating because I feel like mankind cannot create something greater to itself. So I cannot imagine computers being my go to thing for management, advice, and whatnot. Like computers are useful, but I do feel like they intervene a lot in our lives to where we become reliant on them to the point that we stop believing in our own capabilities. Does that make sense? So I would not like to be insecure just because computers are not around. And to give an example of that, I definitely do not trust myself handling relatively complex mathematical problems without a calculator. A calculator is some kind of a tiny computer, some kind of a computer. So if I didn't have that, I know that my abilities in math would be quite limited. And if you guys don't mind, I'm going to step aside for a second because I have to. I noticed that the cat actually snuck into my room, and he's not allowed in here, especially when I'm sick. So I'll be right back. Dusty, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, no, no. I think that's the second time he ever crashes my show. Shame on him. Let me put this back in place. Great. Let me get that out of the way. Great. Love it. He had one of his toys in here. And then let me also plug in this thing because I see that it's running low on battery. But yeah, you guys, I do think that computers to a certain extent are interfering with our lives, and that kind of worries me because I know that I would not be capable of doing some things if it weren't for computers. So, but anyways, um, that's a sneaky little Bing. How did I not notice him? Maybe it's because he kind of does look like my slippers. So, but yeah, he's definitely not allowed in here. I'm quarantined. I have quarantined myself. What if money cannot buy happiness? And can one be happy with no money? Well, this one is one of those scenarios that can get messy and complicated very quickly, so I'm going to try to break it down overly simplistic, but I feel like I might have done an individual stream on this already, but honestly, when it comes to the grand scheme of things, I think that money really cannot buy happiness because as a living being, I feel like you have stuff predetermined for you that works to make you happy and whatnot. There's like, as social creatures, we have that void that only social activity seems to be able to fill. And I think that people who have a lot of money tend to suffer a little bit on the social department because you can never tell when someone is there for you out of interest or if they're genuinely there for you. But for me personally, I like the idea of not having an obscene amount of money because the more money you have, the more responsibilities you have. That's just the truth. And honestly, I don't enjoy living a stressful life. And I like to keep my life very, very simple. And when it comes to money, management is something that I don't want to say I cannot handle. It's just that I like to invest my time a little differently. And I know that if I have money, I can make money work for me instead of me having to work for money. But it's just that money is just something that to me I look as unnatural, unnaturally recurring. Like I don't see animals with societies or something where they have an economic system and whatnot. They don't seem stressed about anything, so why should we be? And oh my god. I should have drank more water than this. Okay. But can one be happy without money? Honestly, I think it's possible. There are civilizations out there that what they have is like a bartering system, like where you trade things. as opposed to having a very complex economy like all of us do. I think those societies tend to be happier because it doesn't really revolve in a system that is exploitive and unfair. So, if you ask me, I think it's possible to live happily without money because originally, as living beings, that's how we were. The system of money is something that mankind came up with. So, you cannot convince me that money is money is a way to control people and for some people to have power. That's all it is. So, so yes, I do think that it is possible to be happy with no money, but depending on which culture you're from and that you inhabit, that's going to be particularly challenging because most most of the modern world revolves around it. So it would be difficult to escape it, put it that way. But I often wonder what a world without money would look like. I can imagine it would be a little chaotic to some extent, but that's based on our perception as a modern person. And to put it in simple terms, people would not be encouraged to work hard um, to be innovative. What would the reward system be in a situation like that? That's what I would like to know. I feel like money is the what's that word? My mind is foggy. The incentive for people to be creative and innovative and productive, but we all know that in ancient times people were accomplishing good stuff already. So, what would the human potential be without the stress of having to be enslaved to making money? Especially the average person. See what I mean? And oh my god, I feel like my stream is going to crash at any time, but we're gonna keep rolling, and I will definitely not touch the comments. I may read them offline, unfortunately, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not even sure I'll survive this stream. Feeling. um, what if no one hears a sound? Does it still exist? I would say so because the human ear can only pick up so many frequencies. So just because you cannot see something doesn't mean it's not there. Bacteria, just because you cannot see it doesn't mean it's not there. So sound, just because you cannot hear doesn't mean it's not there. Some people's of their hearing spectrum is better. So like people with perfect pitch, they can hear pretty much everything. Whereas the average person. But on the note of perfect pitch, it is said that you can actually train your ear to do that, and it has to start at an early age. But to me, it sounds like something that you're physically born with that puts you at an advantage because it's like, unless you're born with flexibility, there is some degree of flexibility that you cannot accomplish on your own. Like, all these years of my life, I have been a pretty flexible person. Even my mother, like, she is close to her 60s, she can still do a ton of things. She's pretty flexible. And, like, she's not. She's not limited physically, whereas people gradually tend to kind of lose it, if you don't have that flexible gene. So yeah, that question originally is not a question I'm used to seeing. So at first I was, but I'm like, no, that sound still exists. It's just that your perception is limited. Oh, this one's interesting. What if plastic was banned? Well, for starters, there is a lot of stuff that simply would need to be discarded, and don't even get me started clean facilities would look like. It would be a complete disaster because there is so much plastic that we're depending on. Like, I know that my room has a ton of plastic in it. I would have to get rid of that, and then what am I going to replace that with? And and like every really, like even pens, something that we pretty much use all the time. And my keyboard would have to go because it's pretty plasticky. And yeah, a world without plastic, I guess, would be a healthier one when I think about it, because I know that plastic is super harmful for the environment. But when it comes to the economical aspect of it and the, um, I guess, personal usage aspect of it, I like to eat off plastic stuff just because I always worry that when I bump, say, my teeth into the glass, I feel like it's a chip because my teeth tend to be a little thin on some corners, and you can see it too. But but honestly, it would be very very life changing. Almost everything has plastic in it, and if it doesn't have plastic in it, something that you use regularly has plastic in it. So, yeah. And then yeah, it would be incredibly life-changing. Just I don't even want to think about it. Oh, this one's pretty interesting. What if you could shape your own future just as you wanted it to be? Well, the first question is, how do I want my future to be? And well, for starters, I do not want to be working in retail. So that's the first one. The second one is I want to be able to wake up whenever I want. And if I'm sick, go see someone who can probably help me get better a little faster. But if not, keep relying on my body's natural defenses like I always do. But definitely, I would love to not have to get up and drive and put my life on danger because I'm sneezing and then my eyes close for that 1 second and the road in front of me. Um, when I'm on my days, also when I'm in so much pain that I just cannot bear it, it would be nice to be able to just lay down in bed with something warm over my belly and, just survive through it. And it would also be nice for me to not have to stress so much about money to where I cannot live making life changing decisions or depriving myself of such some things like becoming a parent. Like, definitely, if I could shape it the way that I want it to be, I'm definitely married in my future. I definitely have at most two children. I'm not interested in having more than two. I think stuff really gets messy after that. But I also have a not necessarily a house. I don't need a house, but I would like a place where I can garage my car because I absolutely detest the fact that it gets exposed to the elements all the time. Like on summer days, it would be nice to at least keep it in a garage so that the sun doesn't heat it so absurdly. I know that in a garage it'll still get warm inside, but at least the sun's damage will be a little more minimized. Um, Long-term exposure to the sun, of course, damages the car, but at least that wearing down is going to take a little longer. And during the winter, of course, I will not have to worry about snow on top of it. Defrosting would be pretty much a thing I can say goodbye to. Um, of course, unless it's an extreme situation where I actually need to leave the car parked outside, because otherwise I would need to deal with the snow in the morning. I don't know. I've never had a garage to really know that, but yeah, I definitely have a home that has more features on it. Um, and also, what else? I mean, I guess I would also have a room where I can just film, and it's reserved solely for filming. I would have like my computer, and then of course a better connection, and I would be able to write my life away and share my writing. And I don't want to say that I yearn being famous. I really don't. But at least I have some kind of a following that is genuinely interested, kind of like what I have with you guys. So anything that I write, anything that I compose, anything that I share, it generates a discussion, and that discussion helps me be a better person, and then it also helps others who are struggling with something and they can advance in life because we have like this group going on to where we can just like help each other out somehow. Um, and I guess the most frightening thing about the future is the folks who may not make it to my future, who I would like to see in my future. Like, for instance, my mother, I know that she's not eternal, so I'm not ready to lose her. Nobody is ever ready to lose a parent like that. But I would love for her to be able to meet her grandchildren because I know she wants grandkids really bad. And I know that from my brother's side, they're not coming so soon. And from my side, it's too soon to tell. Um, I need to know if it's even possible for me to have them at this rate, but at least if I could shape my future already, my ideal future, living it, what I would do as a career is something about uh, content creation, but it may not be the way you associate content being created in modern days. Like when I hear the word content creation, at least what comes to my mind is someone takes the time to add sounds, the production aspect of it. Someone takes the time to go somewhere and have a setup and the presentation is there. They take a long time, they have special effects, and they put out a true work of art. But for me, when I think of content creation from my personal end, I like for it to be I prepare myself to discuss something and we discuss it from all the possible uh, like angles that we as a group can come up with on how to tackle an issue. Or it doesn't have to be about an issue. It can be anything generic, but I love creativity. I love to hear people's thoughts. I like to hear ideas. And I feel like nowadays we're so caught up on being busy, being at work, being distracted, being entertained, that sometimes I look at people who are not doing so well and to define that, let's say folks who are in the streets, who are begging and stuff. What is their potential? What can they do? What are their talents? What kind of chance can we give a person? What do they need to make it? Why are they not making it? What's their struggle? And how can we help them, like, uh, inhibit society a little better? I feel like there is so much talent out there that goes unrecognized, that goes um, unappreciated and stuff, or goes wasted. I would love to see that. What can people do? So, in my ideal future, um, people have better chances. And I know that the the way that the question means it is more for me personally and not the scale of the world, but that to me matters because a lot of my time is spent talking to people who just want to be better at something. And I like to try to encourage them. I'm like, I know I can be better at a lot of things. And one of the things that impedes my growth is my shyness. You're not a shy person. So how can you use that to your advantage? And there you go. So I guess in my ideal future, I'm also a little less shy, but I have come to accept that shyness is something that will either always be there, but little by little, depending on the situation, I can speak up, or it simply will vanish one day and I'll be able to look back at my past and be like, wow, what was I so afraid of? But honestly, my shyness is more of a I don't want to be inconvenient and inopportune in another's presence, that I tend to not speak up unless it's something absolutely important. But yeah, at least my shyness is not insecurity, really. It's just not being sure about what kind of approach to have. So yeah, basically, my ideal future is I'm living comfortably, having at least money to be able to stay at home, having kids, being married, and that community is not dysfunctional. Let's sum it up in those terms. What if someone wrote a story about you? Would you be considered a hero or a villain in your story? You know what? I I like questions like this, but at the same time I dislike them because who wants to sit here and call themselves the monster of the story? But at the same time, I don't want to brag too much because then I feel like I'll sound like I'm full of myself, and I know that I'm not all that. But I guess in the story, I'm pretty confident that I would be seen more as a heroic figure only because I don't go around trying to ruin people's lives. And I think that villains, that's their objective, to put their personal priorities, uh, make them fulfill their goals at the expense of other people, put it that way, whether it's in a moral way or not. Like villains just do bad things. I don't wake up in my mornings and go like, oh, I can't wait to go see whose life I can mess up today. You know, I don't have that type of malicious intent. But at the same time, I don't know if that would automatically classify me as a hero. Um, so I want to say that I would be more of a neutral character because, of course, I know that I do bad things in my day. But honestly, when I do it, my intention is not to hurt someone else. So that's why I feel pretty confident that I am a positive figure in general. But honestly, that I leave it up to the other person who would be composing my story because how can I say this? The experiences that someone had with me when I was a kid will not be consistent with my experiences, with the experiences you would have with me as an adult. Like as a kid, there were some kids that I picked on because I think that I don't want to say they deserve to be picked on, but come on, Zam, be clear. I guess as a kid, I had a superiority complex because I tended to be the smarter kid. I was just ready, period. And I felt like school wasn't challenging. And because other kids were not really matching me in the intellectual department, that made me have my fumes go up to my brain. But then, of course, I started moving around, and different school districts had different categories, and it became a little more complex. And then I was like, oh, I'm no longer the top of the class, right? But at the same time, as an adult, I want to say that I'm pretty nice to be around, and I do my best to go above and beyond and help people. So I think heroes do just that, they help people. So I am hoping that the person writing the story about me would write about me in a positive light, because if not, then it is a huge favor that they do to me because I can sue them for libel, and that'll solve my financial situation. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I would hope that people say something positive about me, and if they don't, then I will gladly read it, examine it, analyze it closely, and if it's true, then okay, I have areas of opportunity. But if it's not true, then that person just needs to get a life, and that's what I'll tell them. Oh gosh. Okay, what if the law of attraction exists? Well, on that one, I'm not sure. What is the law of attraction? Is it that opposites attract, or that like minds go together, or something. But honestly, we end up with so many people who seem like an unlikely couple and they end up together. So, but I'm taking the context of attraction as the romantic type of attraction. Maybe it means something else, but anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. Oh my god. The next one gets kind of messy. It's about US history and it goes, "What if the South won the Civil War?" Well, if the South won the Civil War, I would have to assume that it means that they would have had control of the North's resources, right? And then the South was struggling with their economy because of the, like, it was more agriculturally oriented. And then, of course, you needed to figure out a way to have, uh, basically, the whole reason the past happened the way it did is because crops that were labor intensive. And basically, we didn't have the manpower to do it. And if we were to keep it limited to the nation, still not have enough hands, and it would have been expensive because you would have to pay people properly, I would guess. Whereas we were able to find folks who you could actually purchase and they would do everything for you. But but honestly, I think that the ideology of the country would have remained very, it wouldn't have expanded much. I feel like, um I don't want to say that society would have been completely intolerant. I think that it would have reserved itself to, how can I put this? Like it would be, okay, it wouldn't, maybe it would not welcome foreigners as much because all they want to create is like a nation that would be centralized on them, like more homogeneous, put it that way. But but honestly, I never thought about this one. I know that this is, it's pretty easy to just imagine that because we have our current reality, and then all we have to imagine is an alternative one. I don't like to dwell on that so much because we will never really tell. We'll never be 100% sure what history's course would have been like had that event taken place. And I guess, like, the butterfly effect as well, where you change one thing and then the rest of history is affected as well. So it will get messy and very complicated very soon. But immediately, the one thing I can think of is the South being absolutely powerful. I think it would have been, uh, I think life would have been a little more difficult. But also, for when it comes, I don't think that people would have been as drawn to the United States. And then I have to wonder if they would have risen to power still, to where, we would still have the strongest military or something. What if all of that changes? Yeah, this is that part of social studies where I'm kind of not very good discussing this, especially if I have not prepared my mind for this topic. I've never considered this before, never thought about it. Because what's the point of thinking about it if reality is what it is? It's kind of close-minded for someone curious like me, but that's never been the most appealing topic for me. So I guess that's why I've just been oblivious about it. But yeah, I don't know. I'll look at what you guys had to say about that one, but I really don't have much to contribute on that one. Sorry to disappoint. I really just don't know what to say on that one. What if there was no electricity for a year anywhere in the world? Well, for starters, I guess I guess people would go a little crazy. I can imagine that there would be riots on some places. Especially, I think it would be a particularly dangerous situation to be in because, at least for me, my money is pretty much electronic. And I'm sure that not having electricity wouldn't mean that business would not be conducted any longer. Like, I would definitely try to withdraw my money, but then I would live in stress and uneasy because I know that people know that at any given time I would have money on me. So I feel like that may make violence erupt. And when it comes to commerce itself, for those who do their shopping online, mostly, your life is going to change. You're going to lose touch with your family as well. You'd have to go back to the good old system of handwriting letters, but even that would be affected. I would imagine that everything would take hella longer to get to its destination because you don't have stuff like GPS, and then the postal office wouldn't have an efficient way to sort things anymore because they rely on computers for a lot. Hello, you have to tag things, scan things. So yeah, it would be a devastation for sure, especially since this says that there's electricity nowhere in the world. So the world is also going to look pretty dark for a little while. But then I would imagine that in some places carbon emissions may increase because people are going to be starting fires and whatnot. But I do think that people would get better sleep. That's for sure. Um, but yeah, transportation will definitely be affected. I won't be able to drive. I will need to do everything by foot. And when I think about it, the way our society is set up, well, I guess it depends on where you live, but some people commute to get their basic things, and transportation is what facilitates that. So if you take that away, how is traffic to go to the grocery store going to look like? I guess horses are going to go back to being cool. Like, I remember, well, I cannot say I remember this, but I feel like there was a time when horses were actually affordable, and now they are such an exotic creature. Um, but yeah, like they're expensive and all that. And then for me personally, I would dislike the fact that I'm going to lose touch with you guys, you know? You're a part of my day, and to me, having these discussions is like an essential part of my day. So that would be devastating. But at least we know for sure that in a year we're going to hear from each other again, unless something tragic happens in between, and I don't make it or you guys don't make it. I'm pretty sure that we would all make it somehow. But but yeah, I would also be worried about the folks who are in the hospital because some people need equipment and whatnot, and equipment, of course, operates on electricity. So, how do you monitor that? Modern medicine counts on those technological advances that use electricity to function. So, if you take that away, some people lose their chance at being alive. See what I mean? Um, yeah, and then emergency services. How do we communicate with them? And I feel like some fires are going to get out of control. So how do we inform the authorities that we need a fire to be put out? But also, we won't have fire trucks. So just how useful can they really be in this situation? Air travel wouldn't be a thing. That would be devastating. Uh, yeah, super devastating. It's not something that I do very often, but sometimes the necessity comes up, and in the modern world, losing electricity, it's going to be chaotic. That's for sure. So if a simple raise in gas prices makes things get a little out of hand sometimes, imagine worldwide loss of electricity. That is the decline of civilization right there. I'm sure I'm sure we would make it somehow, but definitely within that year, the world is going to definitely reshape in some way, especially if we enter this crisis without knowing when we're going to get it back, like having to start civilization again without it, or if we know that due of when electricity is back, maybe we can handle it a little better. For me, when I have a countdown to something that's stressful, I just tell myself, say, if I have a burden that will go away on December, I just go like, "Come on, December! I want of this. I can do it." You know, it's something about having a date that you can anticipate makes the pain just go away. But yeah, I guess this one would be a psychological challenge more than anything. If you know that electricity comes back exactly 1 year from now, then you'll be like, okay, it's a year. You know, 364, 363, 362. Start the countdown. So I would turn it into a game, that's for sure. But it would be devastating that that's a year without electricity that I will not get back. It doesn't mean that we're gonna die for a year. It just means that any plans that I had that electricity was going to be involved, then yeah, you know. Um. Oh, this one's interesting. What if we cannot have happiness without sadness? Well, I guess that's part of the balance in life. Like, for there to be cold, you need to have hot, but they say that coldness doesn't exist without the absence of heat. So, all nerd moment aside. I don't know what to say about that one, honestly. I guess just like we need healthy people for life to continue, we need disease for there to be balance. You know, some animals and living beings need to die so that resources can be preserved to aid our existence. But I don't know. I don't know what to say on that one. I'll have to see what you guys have to say on that one because I don't have much to say. But honestly, it is what it is. For that one, I'll have to say it is what it is. Um, what if we found live dinosaurs living on a remote island? You know what? This reminds me of an episode from The Legend of Tarzan, in which there is this episode where I forget how, but they find. Oh, I think Tarzan has known all along that dinosaurs exist. Jane was talking about dinosaurs, and she was like, they have been extinct. And then Tarzan is like, no, I know of a place where they're still alive. And then Jane is like, what? And then he goes like, let's go check it out. And then they find them in this underground. It's like a whole other world that's underground, but dinosaurs existing on a remote island. First of all, I'm pretty sure that if dinosaurs are anything like the way they're portrayed in movies, they will definitely have found the bigger land by now. It doesn't matter how remote of an island they live in. I'm sure that one of those creatures would have made it to the to a mainland, a main continent already. But so what? I mean, a new species gets discovered every single year, and there's a lot that we have yet to discover. And there's still many places on Earth that we haven't explored. But when I think about this one, um, I guess we need to be careful about any people who dare to be tourists bringing an egg, for example, because we have a tendency of making biological disaster happen because we go somewhere and we bring a creature that ends up being an invasive species and then it ruins a complete ecosystem. So imagine you bringing a dinosaur that just hatches in here and then it terrorizes us for a long time because, like, yeah, sure, we have the technology to probably take it down and whatnot, but imagine if somehow it manages to reproduce because you decided to bring two that are compatible. Let's say, let's assume that they are male and female, and then, these end up like propagating faster than we can control, and they become the iguanas of the 21st century. you know, um, yeah, that would be devastating because at any given moment you can be coming out of Walmart and one of these mugs is gonna scoop you from the air, pterodactyls. Sometimes I feel like it's good that extinction happened the way that it did because imagine living in a world where these wild creatures always, always, always have an edge. Like, just how far would we have been able to come along if we had the stress of being attacked by one of these? And clearly, they're more powerful than we are. It makes you feel like there truly is a God out there for us to have had a chance at making it, but I don't know. I've never really thought about this. I guess dinosaurs to me are just like overrated, but as a kid, they're an adult, since they're not real, just like dragons, they kind of lose their appeal, at least for me. But it was fun to speculate the scenario, so yeah. And all right, I think that's a good stopping place. I am going to attempt to catch up with your comments, which means I have to go like 7 questions back, and hopefully this will go well. But if the stream crashes, which I anticipate it will, I just wanted to appreciate you guys for joining me. And now let's get this started. See how life treats us. And I'm already having trouble getting this thing to scroll. Oh boy. There's a lot of engagement. I like that. White Nola. I say hello. Bob Fleming says hello. Lionheart is lurking like always. Excellent. We also have no or an incredibly thick atmosphere, but yet like 70% plus of the geographic features on Earth are below water. Garuda says hi. Hello. Um, at that point, I would marry a computer so I don't get called computer phobic. Before. That was interesting. I can already design new and better adapted AI. AI can already design new and better what? Better adapted AI than we can. She's gone. This means one thing. I am in charge now. All of you belong to me. Oh wait, she is back. I think money enhances you, but it doesn't make you happy or sad. If you're genuinely a sad person, it will increase because you will find ways to make life difficult for yourself. If that's part of your personality, that is, same thing, vice versa. Money cannot buy happiness that make you happy. See, that's the tricky aspect of it. You are becoming dependent on supplement you to be happy, but the money itself is not what makes you happy. It's the stuff that you can obtain with it. So, do you want to separate money as being the medium in which you can obtain its own little thing? Because some people just really feel happy about having a lot of money. They don't necessarily need to be spending it. But do you feel fulfilled by having a lot of money, or is the money supplying you with stuff bringing you the happiness? So I think it's a trick with. Let's see. I lost my place, so I will violently scroll back to the top. Okay. I'm just so I don't lose my place here. It can enhance your emotions, but it still depends on your personality. I know people who are just naturally miserable and have a self-defeating personality. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it affords the freedom to live however you see it. Right, good way to put it. Animals don't build buildings or send rockets into space either, but I'm in favor of doing so. Socialists want your money if you get rich. True. If the oceans dried up, water would become the most valuable resource in the world. Billions would die, and marine life would be all but extinct. And civilization itself might just max itself. You know what? Good way of putting it. I absolutely did not think about the fact that water would become uh, valuable like that, because there is a lot that ocean water does for us, but then it's not really that consumable, but still important. But I guess freshwater resources are really going to be uh, sought after more than ever. If I happen to get rich, I am buying a space shuttle and going to Mars with my bags of money. Ooh, that would be your bank account. Hey, where's your money at? It's in Mars. Are you gonna get a transfer? Sure. Let me call my Mars bank and transfer some money. I agree, money is used in that way today, but that's not indicative of money, but rather of the surrounding society. I don't think computers are actually capable of taking over the world. AI is nowhere near advanced enough, and I don't think people can make something smarter than they are. If I get rich, I'm gonna have lots of kids and live in a densely farm, secluded from everyone. Money is simply a placeholder for value or equivalent exchange. If I want your purse and I only herd sheep, how do I measure the increments of value per item exactly? My farm will have all the necessities I enjoy, including AC, Wi-Fi, satellite, television, internet, a wrench. Also, computers have no imagination. I doubt it would occur to them to try to take over the world unless someone programmed them to. It's certainly possible to be miserable with money, so I guess there's no reason the reverse can't be true. You should look into deep neural network learning, AI. She's not gonna read this chat. Go now. We can all troll Zambri F and she will never know. Well, for your disgrace, yes, I do always go back to the comments when the stream crashes. So I would have found that out. And probably I would totally make a stream just about you. And yeah, put you on about that. I tried to do a split once. I almost broke my man legs. I thought I was going to die. Yeah, exactly. Will do. It's entirely possible. I just don't want to face the reality of our oncoming robot overloads. Let's be fair. For me, the biggest, the most frightening thing about a world that's overcome by computers is seeing that fucking loading button, that little loading circle. How much time are we going to waste just looking at that? We already waste a lot on it as it is. So imagine that taking over the world. Indefinite waiting. And file saying that it'll take 32 years to download. Plastic is also the main method of preservation of products. It was one of the major factors in the declining starvation rate of humans as a whole in the 60s. If you buy water in a plastic bottle, you would be a hypocrite. Snow and salt is way worse for a car than the heat and rain. True, because that salt, like cars that are garaged by the sea tend to rust faster. Rain is basically a free car wash. Well, unless your rain is contaminated, especially by seawater. I want 10 to 15 kids. That's how much I want my lady to give me. In other words, I'm gonna ruin her. Let her raises his spanky to his mouth as he That's hilarious. Uh, then did I just kill Chad with my jokes? Oops. I do find that when there's a flood of comments coming in, it slows down a bit, but I'm not going to tell you guys to not post just to avoid the stream from crashing. One day I'll have it together. One day. Zam, the way you're talking really sounds like really sounds a lot like I would talk on these matters. I think you're a female version of me. Oh, Jimmy, that's awesome. It's awesome that you say it like that because every time I read your comments on like other videos and whatnot when I'm offline, I'm always like, why is this guy like my brother or something? Maybe we were celestially separated. You were meant to be my brother or something, my twin. But I do see why you say that. And that's really sweet of you. Thanks for telling me that. Um, that's a flawed question. The best villains all think they're the hero. True. From a vague point of view, the hero stands for a certain perspective. The villain is the one who actively works for the opposing view. I superheroes was weird. That would make this of its drama very interesting. Though the government would crack down on us real fast. Attraction isn't an interpersonal thing, it's a metaphysical concept that you attract what you think about. Think about something a lot, you kind of summon it to you. Oh, right. That's why sometimes I think it was my mom who used to say, whatever you do, always think positive, because if you don't think positive and you think negative, all you do is bring negative stuff to your life. La, 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 la. Okay, that makes sense. I felt like I was missing the point. So I'm glad you said that. Seems silly to have ignored the chat. Just be patient, dude. Be patient. Zamri, I will never say anything positive about you. Never. Bring it. She always gets to the chat after the thought she'll get to us. Just kidding. That's what. Man, but seriously, imagine if X-Men Mutants was real. First of all, the biggest debate would be what would my power be? But then again, maybe I would just stick to being human and then mutants just start to be born. But you guys should know that my favorite mutant is Storm, in case you don't know by now. But yeah. But yeah, guys, the reason I read the comments at the end is because my connection is not that reliable. So I don't want to just crash the stream in the first 10 minutes. And then, because this time I don't have my computer. So I just have to sort of uh, work through this. And sometimes I do live streams because I know that throwing this on a video would be phone to handle. Yeah, I always get back to you. I would be like a Nightcrawler type. That would be cool. To the whole X-Men thing lately, been watching the cartoon series on YouTube. Are you watching the ones that used to air on Cartoon Network? I think it's called. Anyways, school and stuff. I watch all of it. I think of this cartoon was way better movie that we got. Back of it was very cool too. But honestly, the Apocalypse movie that came out in 2016 was going to be like the cartoon. But honestly, I think the cartoon was way more superior. The South was always doomed, or like if Power Rangers was real, or Naruto or something, just saying, life can be lame sometimes. Oh man. Oh dang it, I dropped my water. So I'm going to grab it. Ugh, okay. Chick-fil-A should totally sponsor. Without Walmart, and the South would be homeless. The South run free labor. You know what? True that. Way the past events concerning no electricity.